come a little closer. I've got some exciting news to tell you if you're itching to travel, so don't go anywhere. While we're continuously being told to social distance, the thought of getting into a packed airplane can seem a little bit unrealistic at this point. But the reality is that as we start to fall into this new norm, economies are starting to open up again. That includes the travel economy, and for us as travelers, this is very exciting news. But obviously, we're not about to get on an airplane and travel the same way we used to. We're going to need to see a couple of changes before we feel comfortable to get in there and get flying. You may have seen in our previous videos, we discussed the things that we want to look for before travel is going to be a viable option again, and what we're doing in the meantime to plan our travel while we're stuck here at home. Well, in this video, we're going to dive a little bit into the changes that the travel industry is making to get us back in those planes and flying around the world. Let's jump in. Hey guys, Tia here from Tia and Andy, and as I mentioned, today we're going to dive a little bit deeper on what's going on in the travel industry, specifically for flying. Now here in Canada, we are still on a pretty strict lockdown, but the government has been talking over the past couple of weeks on phases on reopening our economy. And that includes the travel industry. So round of applause, very exciting. Now, just like any other industry, like we see the changes in the grocery stores, you need to line up, you've got to be wearing a face mask, you've got to be distancing yourself from people. So much like grocery stores and stores that have been open throughout this whole time, the rest of the economy that's opening up is also going to have to follow some sort of standards to ensure that we're still distancing from each other and stopping the spread of the virus. So the travel industry is no exception, and just yesterday, Air Canada, which is one of the biggest airline providers in all of Canada, has announced their new measures on what they'll be doing to get us back in the air, but staying safe. Now, these are measures that we're going to probably see across multiple airlines in the airline industry. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what it is they're doing. So Air Canada specifically has come out with their Clean Care Plus program, and this is split into 3 categories: check-in, boarding, and on board. That's right, they've thought of the whole process of getting to the airport, going through security, getting on the plane, and actually flying. And they have a whole bunch of steps and items that they've put in place to keep their passengers safe. Let's start with check-in. For Air Canada, they've defined 7 steps that they're going to take during the check-in process to ensure that everybody is healthy and fit to be flying, and also making sure that everything is staying sanitized and clean. Now, the first 2 major changes that we're going to see is, number 1, they're going to start taking temperatures. That's right, you heard me. They'll be taking temperatures to make sure that your temperature is not higher than it should be. If it is, you may not be allowed to fly during that time. Number 2, you're going to have to wear a face mask during check-in process and during your boarding and flight. And this piece is not as new. We are seeing in quite a few places around the world where wearing a face mask is required, even going out in public or to go grocery shopping. So this is something that Air Canada and the airline industry is also adopting. Number 3, they are doing regular cleanings of their kiosks for check-in. They will still have self-check-in kiosks, and they'll also have attendants where you can go and check in with the attendant, but those areas will be sanitized and disinfected on a more regular basis. Now, to also keep their employees safe, they're offering all employees personal protective equipment. This includes face masks of their own and gloves. So this means that if you're doing your part and the airline is doing their part, we should be able to stop any germs from spreading around. Similarly, you're going to see a lot more hand sanitizer dispensers throughout the entire airport. And these will be touch-free, the ones where you just put your hand underneath and it plops onto your hand. So lots of opportunity to stay clean and disinfected and not be touching anybody else's germs, as well as not spreading your own. Now, the very last change in the check-in process that I think is probably going to be the biggest one that people need to get used to is you will have to answer a questionnaire. Now, they haven't specified what questions will be on this questionnaire. However, it is a health questionnaire, and we're assuming that it's going to be questions that are going to determine if you're fit enough health-wise to be flying at this point in time. So with all of those measures combined, this is going to be the new norm for check-in. And in our opinion, that's a really great start. It does make even us feel a little more comfortable at the thought of going to an airport, which is usually such a populated, packed, busy place, and being able to know that, we'll still be able to stay distant from people, check in safely without touching other people's germs, and get to our flights. So this brings us into the second category, which is boarding. Now, not much is different from the first category. With boarding, everyone will still be required to be wearing face masks, both customers and employees. So don't be taking your face mask off just yet. Counters and kiosks will also continue to be regularly cleaned and disinfected, and you will also continue to see hand sanitizer stations throughout the airport once you get through the gates. Let's get into the cabin. So you've boarded the plane. There's probably, if you really think about it, a lot of areas in the airplane you touch. You're gonna walk through, you touch the handle of the overhead bin or the overhead bin itself to close it up. You then touch your seat. You've got armrests, you've got a tray table. If you're in the window seat, you've got a window shade that goes up and down. You even have a seatbelt buckle that you're probably gonna be touching once or twice throughout your flight. So within the airplane, there's a lot of places that could potentially hold germs. And this is something that Air Canada has thought of very thoroughly. So let's jump into the changes that they're applying within the cabin. Sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. That is what they're going to be focusing on. Things like tray tables, window shades, seat belts, overhead bin compartments, all of that is going to be sanitized on a regular basis in between flights. So when you come into your plane and board, it's going to have been freshly sanitized for you before you touch anything. Additionally, all airlines are still using the HEPA filters to ensure clean filtering of the aircraft. And they've also made a couple of changes for aircrafts during overnight stays. This includes additional sanitizing, spraying down the airplane, making sure that all of the surfaces in the aircraft have been cleaned and are not touched afterwards. Now, the biggest change you're probably going to see on board if you're flying with Air Canada is from May until the end of June, Air Canada will actually be blocking all adjacent seats. That means you're gonna have more space in between you and passengers around you. And I think this is going to be very key because it fits in with the idea of continuing to social distance even when you're in such an enclosed area. Lastly, everyone will be asked to keep their face masks on during their flight. This includes passengers and flight crew. Now, getting even deeper to the sanitization that's going to be going on, once you're in your seat, there's still more things that you may be touching, and this is something that Air Canada has also thought of. So first of all, screens, tray tables, all of that will continue to be sanitized. They will also be offering sanitation packages or care packages to all passengers. And this is going to include hand sanitizer and disinfecting wipes so that you can even take it a step further and make sure anything that you've touched can then be sanitized. They will also be making sure that headrests are being cleaned and groomed frequently, and prepackaged meals are now going to be the norm. So bottled water and prepackaged meals that have not had food handled by anybody are going to be the new standards as you fly with Air Canada. Now, this might be something new now, but it actually might be something that sticks. We do believe that many other airlines in the industry are going to be applying the same measures to keep their passengers safe as they take flights domestically and internationally. And this focus on sanitation, I think, has really opened the eyes of many of us around the world, and this might become the new norm. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments below if you like these new standards that are being put into place, and if you think that they should be kept in place ongoing. Would you get into an airplane, or are you still gonna wait until things get back to a little bit more normal? Let us know.